Hi everyone, welcome to Friday Live at 5. This week I wanted to tackle two things, figures and narrative. And I know I originally posted this picture as is, and I think it's a compositionally something beautiful, and I do want to do it that way. I may actually do it larger. It was taken in San Malo. I was standing in the parapets on the castle wall looking down to street level where the restaurants were. But it occurs to me, hi Jeff, I think I don't want this to get lost in this overall composition, and I want it to be about the figures and the drawing. So I think what I really want to do is kind of something more like that, so that we can really focus on the figures. Hi, Michael. Because really that's kind of the thing that I need to practice with. And the easiest way I have found for working with this kind of thing, I'm just going to do a rough show you how I want to draw that, is I call it putting the instrument in the case. And if this couple were an instrument, what would the case that they set in look like? It would look something like that. Now I'm going to start with something like that, and then I'm going to sculpt it. I'm going to see, first of all, is it big enough to be the thing I want? So I'm going to look for key places in this shape that I can do stuff. Well, there's a notch. And I'm going to look how straight his back is there. And then he leans forward. There's definitely a narrative going on here. There are a couple I'm going to say it's a new couple. I don't know why. I picture him as looking like Jeremy Irons. So there's a division between the two figures. So there's the notch of her shoulders, there's a notch of his shirt. I'm going to start with that, I'm going to flesh it out. That's an angle. It's not this, it's that. Curve and a... So I'm sort of sculpting this, if you will. So how much of that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So much for the 7. You can modify this as you go. She's a lot shorter than he is. Now, if it helps, hi Charles. Yeah, I know, there's the narrative. That's why I think she's leaning into him. She's kind of feet together, and this is what I just wanted to say at that moment when you said that. I remember reading something, I believe it was by Andrew Wyeth, and he learned from his father, N.C. Wyeth, who was amazing at doing figures, that you strike the pose, you feel the pose, you do it yourself. So if you try to stand like him, very straight, 1 foot forward, feel the weight in your body and in it. Do what she's doing, feet together, kind of lean back and leaned into him, neck at a tilt. See, her neck is at a tilt, her body is at this tilt, her pelvis is that tilt. He's sort of leaning forward, 1 foot like this, 1 foot like that. So that might help. I'm thinking that might help with the drawing of this. So there's her shoulder, arm down, purse. Now, there's I did it backwards, John. Thigh, calf, thigh, okay, thigh, calf, excuse me. So he's got his, look for those little shapes like that, the Grinch that stole, tiny little Grinch that stole Christmas. The hat. Her head, her shoulders, line of her shoulders is not level. It's like so. Upper torso is leaning like this. Her pelvis is leaning like that. Hip into him. So all these things hopefully help me get the posture. Then he's got his arm coming down here and in his pocket. And then we've got the menu. By the way, here's a hot tip eating in Europe. When you have a pre-printed menu like this, that might be a worry about that. This is the menu you want to order from. The stuff that's the available today only, that they've written on the chalkboard. If there's pictures on this menu, find another restaurant. Okay, so back to this composition. So I'd look for these little shapes in here. These are easy shapes. And then you can see, am I fitting them together the way they ought to fit together? And where does his sleeve actually comes quite down. He's a tall guy. And notice that one leg of her, I don't know, right now, high water pants are like all the rage for women now. So, enough of that. Let's do it here. This, I'm going to spend a little time on this because this is what I wanted to do. So, I decided, okay, I want to do it basically a horizontal composition. I'm going to look for my big shapes. There's that line coming to about the third line, going up to about the fifth line. The figures are pinned a little bit past the third line. Their shadow is coming up like so. Now, let's get my big shape. My case for the instrument. Maybe we'll include that menu sign as the I'm drawing lightly. I know you can't see this, but I'm going to refine this. Thigh, calf. Tiny space in between. Arm, head, hat. It's quite the hat. Try to feel the pose if you can. Look at the lean on that. We'll tend to want to draw the hat like this, so you want to draw the hat like that. And the more you can do these little things, the easier it will be to correct. Thank you, Jason. Jason is somebody I might need to talk to. She's leaning very close to him. Ponytail hanging down, shoulders this way. None of this is set in stone. I can her arm that way. Upper torso leaning back and towards him. Pelvis thrust out the other way. Feet together. So she is definitely leaning into him because she might be slightly off balance were she not next to him. And felt comfortable leaning on him. And I don't know why he looks to me like Jeremy Irons. And she looks like that girl, what is her name? That actress. It was the movie with the girl who worked in the like publishing type place, and she was in love with two guys, and one of them was Hugh Grant, and the other was The Diary of Bridget Jones. It's the actress who was in The Diary of Bridget Jones, and that's who she looks like to me. I don't know why. Get her ponytail there. She has like a T-top. One of the things that I liked about this composition was the fact that we've got all these lovely darks with a big, wonderful dark shape that it's basically a bluish thing with a purplish cast. And then you've got the yellow in her top and a little bit of yellow down here and this pinkish gray down there. And boy, I think there's lots of nice strong values. I tend to lean towards that kind of thing. I don't know why. So I'm going to start darkening this up, and then I'm going to have to erase. These little breaks in the shadow here, they're lovely. Oh my goodness. That little thing cutting in there. So there's the sub menu down here, but I probably should be finding that with okay, it's very important to get his shape, his posture. She's got those platform sneakers on. That seems to be all the rage with high water pants now. Maybe it should be a little further over. I don't know. Get the angles right here. See, I'm not steep enough. I shot this from quite high up. So we're very, very zoomed. So the pixels are maybe not quite great. There's a space in here that's, I don't know what that is, but I want to maybe just lose that. The important thing is to get the shadows on his shoulder and his arm. Just casually in his pocket. This is critical, the area behind the neck. Okay, so now it's time to get out the eraser and start taking out stuff that I know is not going to work. I'm very big about leaving the wrong line in until you get the right line drawn, so that you don't keep redrawing the same bad line. Whew, that's a weird shape for shadow shape for two people. There's nothing that's as interesting as the kind of weird shapes that shadows make. At least to me. Everything's about light and shadow to me. I guess I'm about a little more like this. Yeah, that's it. So this should be a straightish line. That hat, I probably got way too large. Her arm. Okay, I think I'm at a place where I can start throwing in some color, and I will then refine or define the thing as I make the brush strokes. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's an eye ride. The other thing that it does, it points us right down to their feet, and that their stance is so critical. So there we go. There we go. There we go. Yeah, she's got sloping. Okay. I think I'm okay. You never know when you're trying to do this in a 1-hour video. Now, I'm going to just try to do as much as I can with this one brush. Lights first, towards the mediums and the darks. I can tell you now that this really isn't going to happen until I put these dark shapes in. Everything is going to be kind of blurry and funky and who knows. I'm going to start with their flesh tones, which for her is almost a pinkish yellow ochre. I'm going to go with cad orange and a lot of water. Face, arms. He's a little swarthier. I'm going to get into my burnt sienna or transparent red iron oxide. Again, very pale mix on his arm there. Now her hair is very blonde. I'm going to get into some yellow ochre and a lot of water. And I'm going to put that there, and I'm just going to let it merge with the other things. So like I say, it's going to be kind of tie-dye, holy mess stage till the end. Now I'm getting into my cad lemon or titanium, nickel titanium yellow or nickel titanate yellow or a lemony yellow, which I'm going to bring down from her top and I'm going to come out of that with lavender. And a little darker. Maybe some cerulean. And I'm going to paint the shadow shapes. Oh, let's get a little darker. Lavender and cerulean. Lower port. Then this is the shadow from her bag. And let's put a little bit of alizarin in that. Let's purplize it. Whoa, too much, John, too much. Oh, what are you doing? More lavender, more water. So the board is at a 45-degree angle. This is Stonehenge 140-pound cold press. Some shadows coming in from there, off the purse. A little bit back there. Now him, same stuff. But I think I'm going to put this lavender with a bit of yellow ochre in it. And then I'm going to get a little bit of the, yellow ochre. There's some of it in the hat there, maybe a little bit. I'm going to start it on the shoulder, and then I'm going to go to the lavender. Maybe, I need it darker, Let's tip in some yellow ochre here. There. Whoa, what was that? All right, need to cool it down. Let's get some turquoise. Turquoise, well, all of this is in shadow. Yeah, it's white. I know it's white, but it's in shadow. Lavender plus some red. Drink up some of that. His shoes. I know it looks like a mess right now, but we're gonna, I hope, make it into something. I'm gonna get some of that turquoise and some of that lavender, and I'm gonna pull a shadow across the top of the menu there because there's an awning above this. I'm going to tip some of that in here. And again, like I say, this is not really going to make sense until we actually get into the shadows and then we add a few darks in here. Now, out here on this cobble, beautiful cobble. If If you ever get a chance to go to Saint Malo, do it. It's in Brittany. It's ancient and modern at the same time. And the modern, they tried to, it got very heavily bombed during World War II. Very heavily bombed. The Germans just weren't giving it up. And parts of the very ancient portions of the city still stood, but other portions needed to be redone. And they went to the trouble and the expense of trying to make the repairs look like the original stuff. And just, you gotta hand it to them when they do that. And interestingly, I've seen pictures of apartments in Saint Malo, and the outside of the building looks like 17th century, and the inside looks like 2026 with the latest Smeg appliances and the whole 9 yards. Really something. So we may need to dry this. I can see I need to mop that out. I think I'm going to dry this. So we'll go to the mute and we'll get the hair dryer and we'll be back in a moment. And we're back. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is within this area of this triangle of darks, there are some lighter elements, but I don't want them to stick out as much as our figure because it's all about the figures, right? So that's where we want to be. Then, once we get those lighter colors in, I'm going to have to dry it. And then I will go in with this dark bluish violet kind of lovely color. So it's better to underpaint something like that all the way and then leave the skips and stuff behind. So I'm making a medium value, meaning it's going to be dark component colors that are cool, meaning they don't have red, orange, yellow, or violet. Well, I don't know. Do a tester. Yeah, okay. And it will, hopefully this will, and I'll make a good bit of it because I got to cover a lot of real estate. So any of your blues, it just doesn't matter. It's the value in this instance and the bias of the color. So the value, dark. The bias, that you see when you squint. So if these lighter elements in the background tend to look whatever you think you're seeing, purplish, or, I can't account for, what it's going to look like from this iPad to your device. I mean, I can only tell you what I'm looking at. But it's a purplish, grayish, kind of bluish kind of thing. So, but it's going to be roughly a medium value. So this is where I have to have some care in cutting around the hat, the heads, and the menu. Everything on this menu is darker. See, I've got a bead there. That's waiting for me. I can take it down while I have to cut around these critical shapes. I can sort of cut through here. Be decisive in your strokes, but leave a... Boy, I hope I got enough mixed. Leave a bead. Or if you can't, if you start running out of paint, look for places where you can disguise having to come back. Remember, you don't have to get this perfect because these are the lighter colors that are going to appear within that very dark shadow. So you still have some room to make this thing happen correctly. If you miss the gap there, pick it up here. See a dangerous looking bead forming. See, that bead waits for us. Technically, everything on this line should just about be the same. And it looks like I mixed just enough to get away with it. Now when I do the darker ones and leave the lighter bits of this behind, I'm going to have a pretty big puddle. So, doggone it, let's get the shadows. Look at that shape in there. Whatever it reminds you of. Oh, I hope I have enough to do this. Always mix more paint than you think you are going to need. And then double it. And you'll be okay. Now if you're painting in oils, you're home free. You can always mix more and come right back. Okay, let's try this. So hopefully you can see we're starting to develop the image that we're looking for. So I'm going to mute us again and get the hairdryer. And we're back. Okay. Now, I have options here. I can go in with some mediums in this area on the figures, and probably that might be a good idea. I really think with luck I can get away with making this a one brush painting. We will see. I'm going to need a little darker yellow, so that means yellow ochre for the, well, let's do her hair. Let's not fiddly about with her. She's a blonde, so that means yellow ochres, raw siennas, those kinds of colors. And we're going to leave a little bit of the, oh, I'm going to need more than that. Oh my goodness, yes. And some of that ponytail there. Now I'm going to go right to the burnt sienna. These are slower moving mixes. Burnt sienna, ultramarine blue. At the bottom of that, back of that, the area under his face, under the hat, very shady. A little more burnt sienna in that, ultramarine, burnt sienna, heavy on the burnt sienna, his arm, the shaded part along the back, and tendon there. Let's park a little more of that, plus some cad red, into where his face would be, just to make it warmer. Rinse the brush, go back into maybe the yellow ochre. These shady bits under her arm. Now there's also, I'm going to put a little more ultramarine in the same mix to get a purplish gray. And I'm going to touch it right underneath the nape of her neck. These shaded areas on the back of her purse here. If I'm careful, see how this brush forms a flattish point? I'm going to use that carefully. My pinky finger as a maul stick. And I'm going to try to draw the strap. There we go. Okay, now I need to, out of the wet edge of that, using some turquoise and some, or maybe some cerulean. Turquoise plus ultramarine is pretty much a close thing as cerulean. I'm going to have to deepen the shadow here underneath her, that area. And then a little warmer version of these blue grays in the area between her pants legs. There's some darkness in there. There's a, let's get some lavender, slower moving lavender. Because she's leaning close to him, there's a cast shadow coming off of her onto his white clothing. And maybe a bit of that over here, a bit of that down here by her shoes, certainly by his shoes, in here. Now I'm going to put a little water in that same mix. I'm going to have to darken up that shape in there, but for now, this goes like that. A little bit on the back of the hat. And down, the hat is casting a bit of a shadow on his back. And down like that. Okay, I think that'll do. Now for her. She needs a kind of warmer yellow ochre, cad yellow mix for, she has a striped top. I'm going to leave it at that for the time being. And now I'm going to move, well, let's see, what else can we do? Let's have that same color here in the corner of the menu. Let's do those. Let's do the menu. Let's have some fun. Oops, neutral tint. Neutral tint and okay. I promise, or I have my fingers crossed, that I hope this is going to come out to look like what we needed to do. Now we're going to do these really dark darks. And I'm going to ignore the little plant thingies in here and maybe that urn. Well, doggone it, maybe I should put that urn in there. I'll try to leave that. I'll pencil it in. It's an ellipse, make an ellipse, dark. Oh, you know what? I didn't see this. Her portion of her day bag is in shade. Okay. Stuff that, oh, look at his arm. There's a, better to get this now than later. Now, we're going to have to mix up a big puddle of a dark blue-violet. That's going to involve neutral tint, my darker blues, and some reds. Now, when you get more pigment in a mix, it's typically going to be a slower moving mix. So to get it to run, be liquid enough, you need to have components which are dark to begin with. So that would be neutral tint, phthalocyanine blue, Prussian blue, alizarin crimson, and a little water. So yeah, it'll be runny enough to hopefully make something kind of like a bead, but it still needs to be really dark and red. So we wouldn't use a lighter red like cad red light. Let me get this up here. We wouldn't use the cad red light. We use the alizarin, which is darker already. We use the neutral tint, and we use the phthalo or Prussian blue, and the ultramarine and the neutral tint. So, God willing and the creek don't rise, we'll have enough of this mixed up to do the job. So, this is where you want to plan your attack. Where have I got stopping points? That's a narrow bit, that's a thermopylae. This is a thermopylae. So I could kind of paint this area on its own. I could kind of paint this area on its own. I could kind of paint that area on its own, because there's a break. I could kind of paint this area on its own, because there's a narrow spot. So look for your thermopylaes. Some of you will not know what that is. Look it up. 300 Spartans. The reason why we, by the skin of our teeth, enjoy democracy today. Didn't know you were going to get a history lesson, did you? I'm going to try this one down here. This one here first. Well, I'm going to have to do both of these together. So there's some... Oh, look at that guy run. So I have to be careful about my shape with her, right? There he goes. The other thing is, if you miss some of your places that you need to have a lighter spot in there, you can lift them. Because the thing about dark paint like this is that it tends to be easy to lift because there's more pigment in it, and therefore is easier to lift. So let's get some of this. See, I forgot my pot. What? Okay. Let's put more turquoise in it to send it further away. That being further away than this, right? And the faster you get it done, the better. It's one of those Shakespeare strokes. 'Twere done, 'twere best done quickly. And if I had any kind of education, I'd know which act of Macbeth that comes from. More red in this area. And you have a big, big shape. Have fun keeping the value the same, but the hue vary, because whenever the human eye sees change, it assumes movement. Before this gets too dry, I can charge it with cobalt turquoise. Make sure that when you put something in, you paint the whole shape and that the consistency of what you bring in is as close as possible. Oh, John, here we go. You lost the hat. As close. Oh, look at that. Dribbles and drops. Okay, what can we do? Rinse that brush really good. Take it out. Pull it over there. Okay. When you get into trouble like that, be an oyster. Make a pearl out of it. Or find a way to make a pearl out of it. If the stroke looks assured, people will think you meant it. Let's put a little more alizarin in this mix, because a shadow will look more like a shadow, and I'll put a little bit more water. Shadow will look like a shadow if the color of it changes along its length, and the value of it changes along its length. And it should technically get lighter the further away it gets from the object that's casting it. So we're starting to get there, I hope. We'll see. It's going to take a while. Whoops. Maybe I shouldn't have been trying to do this with one huge brush. So let's get in here. And while we still got some can find some darker bits. Remember, this is the subject, not that. So we're just suggesting this other stuff. I'm going to try to more carefully shape her head. Okay, now this I'm pretty sure is going to need to dry. And then we're going to lavish a little bit more on our figures. Which, after all, is hopefully what this is going to turn out to be. I do not say I am the... I need practice at this stuff. So, mute and then hairdryer. Okay, so a few problems in here. So I'm gonna have to be an oyster and make something of that. A little bit of burnt sienna, a lot of water, some of this. See if I can mimic this cobblestone stuff in here. On our figures, clearly the shadow cutting across the menu is not as dark as it might be. I'm going to erase any pencil work that I can get erased. And I'm going to try to, maybe at this point, maybe I should get into a smaller brush. I'm not going to do it. I am trying to learn to paint with the bigger brush. Okay, where are my darks? Where am I squint? Where do I see a dark? Okay, I don't think I need super darks. I think what I need is, I'm going to mop this out, rinse that brush off, get back into the lavender and add to that. Particularly around here where his pants are. And her pants are. Some yellow ochre to go with. Something is causing a bit of a shadow across her pants there. I think I'm going to have to do a lift to get his hat back, but the area under here decidedly wants a little more, his arms and the back of his shirt. wants a little more darkness. And his arm isn't dark enough, so we're going to fix that too. I'm going to have to get a smaller brush. What have I got? Oh, something that I can use for a lift. It's going to have to be small and stiff. And of course, the one I want is not available, but we're going to try to do what we can. That area there, the hat, it's one of those sun hats. It just isn't quite big enough. And let's see if I can get that a little better. I may have to go to white gouache and then get some of this, make a shadow of it. Okay. Put a little bit of red in that. She has a more distinct shadow on the back of her torso. That looks dark, I know. So I'm putting it in, rinsing the brush, and then tapering it down into her pelvic area. You know, I actually could have gone darker there, I think. So, a little bit more there around the area of her ponytail. She appears to have sunglasses or something. And then the strap for her bag. Some shadow on top of the bag. That area there. And then some area under her arm there. I'm going to put a little bit of warmth in her flesh there, more in his, definitely more here. I think I could use some darks in here. Sort of getting there. Let's see if we can find our menu a bit better. Miscellaneous darks up in here. I don't want to be too crazy about what's in there because I want it to be more about my figures and not about the stuff that's in shadow. But I might put a little, because this area here is closer to us, I might put a little more attention there. So, this is the point or I want to stop and consider what I'm doing. And make any changes after I've decided, no, it needs this, it needs that. These are just abstract geometrics that appear in here. That area does need a bit more pinkishness. So there's alizarin, maybe some burnt sienna, and a lot of water. So I'm going to start that with a little bit of water at the top, and then I'm going to move into it. And very carefully go over those shadows. Hopefully I won't loosen it up too much. This is a soft paper, this Stonehenge. I like it, but you have to be careful with it. So the division between her pants legs, shadow on his side that she's casting on him. Let's peel it and see what we get. I freely admit I'm not the best at figures. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I think I'm getting some of the lighting. I'm just not getting maybe what I need. I can see in here I need some more blue and violet. Maybe a little bit back there. And then her lower back. So I hope that helps a bit. It's not perfect. Feet should like disappear into the shadows so that they don't look plunked down. That's better. It's not perfect, but I do feel like I'm getting a bit of the lean that she's leaning into him. Let's put some, it'd be good to have a little bit of splatter in this area just to get a bit of, I don't want to paint cobblestones because that'll be just a bit too much. And let's grab a frame our figures. Okay. Take that last piece of tape off. Oh, wow. That's too kind, Michael. Too kind. Although, there were some, Sargent did some things with guys in kind of these white linen suits that was just really, really wonderful watercolors. He's put a bit more shadow on that menu. And a bit more shadow on his upper body there. a little bit in the back of the hat. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. And make a mental note to paint more figures. So, 2, review. See if you can make that first, I call it putting the figure in the case. Draw that shape. It's kind of a arch. Then sculpt it out. Look for diagonals. Cut in on the little notches, that kind of thing. If you find the big shape, then you will get, oh, thank you, Judy. Judy, you were there. Judy was up there on that parapet too. So, make it easy on yourself. Try to get this thing as tall as it needs to be versus how wide it is, the shape that it fits in. Then figure out where does, how big or how small the heads are. Then look for those little shapes. Don't try to be like an ant crawling along this contour, because you inevitably will wind up off the page or your proportions will be off. Find the thing that it lives in first. Oh, gee, right away I can see right now the flesh tones are not as dark as they need to be. Okay, a little bit of yellow ochre or raw sienna on her there and there. That's better already. So get your Sergeant Coffee Table book. Study it. He's the man. And we're all learning. So thank you all for tuning in. Next week I will be I'm going to have probably not a Friday live because I'm going to have to be traveling to Dubuque for the Bluff Strokes plein air event. And I will try to maybe post something from when I'm painting there. May not be a Friday, might be a Saturday, who knows, or a Sunday, anything like that. But the following Friday, when they have the review, when all the paintings are hung and stuff like that, I'll do a walkthrough because, man, there's going to be like 45, 50 absolutely top drawer painters from the upper Midwest and beyond, and it's really worth seeing. So all of you, thank you for tuning in. Stay safe, stay sane, and peace out.